Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of On the Beat. I'm Tony Olivero here with my fellow basketball beat writer Brett LoGiurato, recapping tonight's victory by Syracuse, number 8 team in the country, 78-58 over fellow upstate New York team Cornell. Game ended, I would say, about 2 or 3 hours ago. There's a lot to divulge, so let's just get right to it. First things first, they won by 20, but yet again, Jim Boeheim not happy with his team's performance. I think the height of the press conference really was when he mentioned that Georgia Tech was losing by 30 to, I believe it was Northwestern. Just not pleased at all, and it seems as if Coach Boeheim doesn't feel they are where they need to be, even though they won by 20, and even though he seemed like he was happy with the team's performance in the championship game of the Legends Classic. So Brett, what'd you take from another, I guess, Jim Boeheim 2010-esque press conference?
Yeah, right off the bat he came to the podium and just he wasn't happy again. And, you see the flaws and you see the tale of two halves again. And this time it was a strong first half and a lackluster second half. And, he said it's not who you play, it's how you play. And right now SU isn't really playing a full 40 minutes. So, in the second half there were 12 turnovers to just 7 assists. And, something he was upset about. Just overall shoddy defensive play and allowing Cornell to score 41 points in that half. Cornell never really got close, but you see some of the flaws in SU that are recurring and their inability to not play a full 40 minutes.
It's true, they haven't been playing full 40 minutes. They were outscored 41-40 there in the second half. But I think it's a little more encouraging to see them play well the way they did in the first half as opposed to the second half, because to me at least, after you had all those initial games to start the year where SU wasn't playing in the first half, I do think this Cornell team, even though they are only 2-5 on the season, they are, I believe, better than some of these other teams that SU has played. Overall, I was very impressed with the first half, and I think every media member who was there at halftime was saying to each other how well SU played there in the first half. So honestly, I think it's more encouraging than any of the other wins SU has had in the Carrier Domes thus far. But you do mention that SU did falter there in the second half. They had 12 turnovers. They had 12 assists there in the first half. But overall, it wasn't enough for Boeheim. I mean, at a certain point there, he was literally almost kicking a hole through the podium there, and was waiting for another question, which nobody was really looking to ask, I guess. Yeah. But on to the players here. From tonight's game. Again, Rick Jackson, 6 double-double in a row. Keep doing what he needs to do. What do you take away from Jackson's performance? Because by now it's just getting old, really, with what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty expected, and Boeheim expects it, which is the big thing, and that's really the one positive person he keeps bringing up in each of his press conferences, or most of them, is Rick Jackson's play, because he's been so solid and so constant, and he's been that rock all throughout. You pretty much can chalk it up that he's going to get a double-double. And he's going to be, huge if he can continue this through as SU takes on bigger conference opponents this weekend, next week, and into Big East Conference play.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with North Carolina State. We'll see what happens with Michigan State with regards to Rick Jackson's play. But his mate down low, Fab Melo, not a breakout game per se, but a game where he did more than providing nothing. After playing only 14 minutes in the Legends Classic, he was out there tonight playing the majority of the minutes. I believe he scored 8 points, and I think it was 7 rebounds, 3 from 4 from the field, but mainly just looked like he belonged out there and looked like he had confidence. Talking to Mike Hopkins after the game, he said that he's been talking to Fab a lot recently, and he said that Fab's confidence was hurt. And even after the game, Fab said, he even mentioned, he brought up Carmelo Anthony. He said, there's a little bit, there's pressure for me, a little bit too much pressure, and I wasn't handling that, and exactly what he said is, the next Melo at Syracuse. So I don't think today was a huge step, but it was a step in the right direction. What did you see out of Melo today?
Yeah, it was a big step, I think, and we hadn't really seen anything from him, and it showed in the amount of minutes he got in the Legends Classic in both contests, and he surpassed the combined total of those minutes tonight. And he just looked right off the bat. He looked like he was fired up and ready to go, and he just looked like there were shades there of the guy that SU recruited, you know, and he wasn't dominant by any means, and maybe we're making a little too much out of this, but it definitely was, like you said, a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it wasn't dominant. Cornell might have been, you know, the shortest team that SU's played all year, severely lacking in height. So, you know, we'll see in the next few games if it was just a flash in the pan for Melo, or, you know, if he's onto something. And then lastly, you know, let's talk about, I guess, the guards, Dion Waiters and Scoop Jardine mainly. There in the first half, we were expecting more of a slowdown game here with Cornell coming to the Dome, but it was up and down there in the first half, especially with Dion Waiters pushing the ball, Scoop Jardine pushing the ball there. Boeheim after the game said Scoop played as bad as he can. You know, what's your take? Even Scoop was scoreless again. I think it was the second game in a row he failed to score. And your take on Dion Waiters, another solid showing.
Yeah, well, first with Waiters, you know, he was kind of the key, or one of the keys, I guess, to that fast-paced first half offense, and just kind of running that along with Jardine and along with Brandon Trish, running that transition offense. It seemed like, you know, it was like clockwork. Cornell shooting 8% from beyond the arc and 24% overall, and SU they had a huge rebounding advantage, and they got a rebound, and it was out to Waiters or Jardine or Trish and down low quickly, and that's how they got a lot of points in the first half. And Waiters was really, he impressed me like he did in Legends Classic with his confidence in taking shots, and he also impressed me. He looks like he's improving a lot. He's made a lot of strides already at the top of Jim Boeheim's 2-3 zone, and he's really active in that, and it showed, you know, 3 first half steals, and he's a guy that can definitely create a lot of things from the defensive end and turn them into points on the offensive end in quick transition. And as far as Scoop, you know, there's one side that he had 7 assists, and you know, he didn't score, but he was helping out his team. And there's another side which Jim Boeheim, you know, promoted at his press conference when he interrupted a question about Scoop's 7 assists, and he said he played, you know, the worst he's seen, and that's the fact that he really can't buy a shot right now. Especially he went 0 for 4 from 3 tonight, and over the last 4 games since that career night against Detroit, he's 9 for 42.
Right. Yeah.
So it's something to be concerned about. You know, he's definitely one. He's a key, like we saw in Detroit, and he needs to get back on track.
Yeah, there's harsh words from Boeheim, and you know, you mentioned Waiters. I think confidence is something that he's definitely not lacking, and anyone watching this team right now can definitely see that. But you know, lastly, and we'll leave it off at this, in the first half there, even though Boeheim had those harsh words for the team as well, I thought we saw glimpses of the top 10 team of Syracuse, you know, in all aspects of its game, starting with the 2-3 zone. In my eyes, they were playing it as good as they played all season, probably the best they played all season, even with Mookie Jones getting in there at the top there in the zone, especially with Dion Waiters. But then off of that, you know, Cornell, this smart team, this team that always looks to try to find gaps, has shooters. They did such a good job. They were only 1 of 12 from behind the arc, and then Rick Jackson and Fab Mel and everyone else who's in there were just dominating the boards, and that was leading to these breaks. And if it wasn't the rebounds leading to the breaks, it were steals or whatever it may be. Dion Waiters had 4 total in the game, and it just looked like a top 10 team that should earn that kind of number 8 ranking, especially for the entirety of the first half there. But then the second half came along, and Coach Boeheim let it be known on just exactly how he felt about the game overall. But that's it for now. Be sure to check dailyorange.com for all of the coverage from tonight's game. All of it's up there currently as we speak, as well as in print edition of the Daily Orange tomorrow. And be sure to check back in on Friday in print and online for the Daily Orange's first weekend edition of In the Paint, previewing the North Carolina State game. Newspaper all to itself with everything you need to know about Syracuse basketball and North Carolina State. But for now, that's it from 744 Ostrom. For Brett, thanks, guys.